My name is Salvatore Benedetti. My friends call me Sal. I travel for business quite often, on average, about 10 days a month. That suits me just fine. I'm single, have no children, and I earn a decent living. Over time, I've developed the habits of a seasoned traveler. I've also learned to tolerate the vacation crowds I encounter at airports. I always travel light and never check a bag when flying. When it comes to hotel service, my standards are very high. If there's a mistake with my room reservation or the staff is rude, I leave immediately. And so, there I was, angry as hell, standing in the parking lot of a downtown Chicago hotel at 2:30 in the morning, wearing nothing but a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, which I usually sleep in. The fire alarm had jolted me out of a dead sleep, and since my room was on the 12th floor, the trek down the emergency stairs turned into a pretty long walk. Luckily, it was June, and the early morning air wasn't too chilly. I had pulled a baseball cap low over my face, just to signal to the other hotel guests that I wasn't in the mood to discuss the cause of the alarm. As I stood off to the side, one face caught my attention. It was a woman, roughly my age, tall, with a stunning figure. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and she was leaning against a guy just as tall. He was well built, too, holding her in a warm embrace and whispering something into her ear. Her cheeks were flushed, and she giggled like a schoolgirl who just heard a dirty joke. At one point, she leaned in and kissed him warmly on the lips, her hand gently stroking his cheek. It was obvious they were lovers whose fun had been interrupted by the fire alarm. He was probably telling her how lucky they were that a firefighter didn't bust in on them while they were together. My pulse quickened, and my breathing became uneven. The guy looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. Still, I knew that by tomorrow morning, I would definitely remember who he was. But the woman, I knew her very well. We had dinner with her and her husband just 5 days ago. Her name is Lily Wellston, and she's the wife of my childhood best friend, Tim Wellston Sr. I was the godfather of Tim Jr., one of their 2 kids. Let me explain everything. Tim and I grew up just 5 blocks apart and went to elementary school together. But those 5 blocks between our homes might as well have been on opposite sides of the planet. They were that different. Tim lived on the edge of a decent blue-collar neighborhood in Lexington, Kentucky. His father, Big Ed, was a police officer, and his mother, Tina, was a high school math teacher. Together, they earned a solid living, had a modest but cozy home, and were able to provide for their 4 children, Tim being the youngest. If you walked 3 blocks east from Tim's house, crossed the railroad tracks, turned left, and went another 2 blocks, you'd find yourself in a different world. My neighborhood. I never knew my deadbeat father, and my mom worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. I had an older brother, Mike, who also tried to help bring in some money once. He got old enough. Between her night shifts on the hospital janitorial crew and working the counter at the local diner, Mom somehow managed to make ends meet. Tim and I became friends in 6th grade. One day after school, I was walking home when I saw 4 8th graders surrounding Tim. It was obvious they were about to beat him up. My older brother Mike had taught me how to stand up for myself and to never back down from bullies. His advice was simple. If a fight's unavoidable, strike first and strike hard. Never run from anyone, and even if you lose, they'll respect you afterward. It was immediately clear that 1 against 4 was a bad deal for Tim. Since I already had plenty of experience in fights, I didn't hesitate. I rushed them from behind and knocked a few of them down. Grabbing the biggest one by the collar, a guy named Wayne Parker, I punched him square in the jaw with all my strength. He dropped to the ground, knocked out cold. "What's going on here?" I shouted, glaring at the other 3. I've always had a heightened sense of justice, and I was furious that 4 guys had ganged up on one. "One of them," Tony Simmons replied. Wayne told Tim to hand over his pocket money nicely, and Tim said no. So Wayne decided to teach him a lesson. I started to boil with rage. "Tim, is that true?" He looked at me, his nose bloodied, and said, "Yeah. And there's no way Wayne's getting my money. Life on the other side of the tracks teaches you to make decisions fast. And while those decisions aren't always perfect, doing nothing is a surefire way to get wrecked. Quickly weighing the situation, I laid out my solution to the problem. I shot a furious glare at the three guys who were with Wayne. "You three, get out of here. If any of you tries to step in and help Wayne, I'll kick your... And if you somehow manage to beat me, then you'll have to deal with my brother Mike." Got it. Mike was a tough guy. Even the local gang members stayed out of his way. When he was 14, a small-time drug dealer in the area tried to pressure him into selling drugs. Mike refused, and that idiot decided to teach him a lesson that why the time someone broke up the fight. The dealer was missing 4 teeth, had 2 broken ribs, and would never see clearly out of his right eye again. The cops were planning to arrest Mike for assault, but James Aubrey smoothed things over with them, and they let Mike go. At the time, James was the most feared crime boss in our neighborhood, maybe even in all of North Lexington. After that, no one ever messed with Mike again, and he became good friends with Aubrey. 4 years later, Mike enlisted in the Marine Corps. He served for 8 years, rose to the rank of staff sergeant, and then left the military, returned home, and joined the Los Angeles Police Department. He's now a homicide detective in the Major Crimes Division. To this day, no one dares to cross him. But back to that moment, I seriously doubted my brother would get involved if 3 teenagers, just 2 years older than me, beat me up. But they didn't know that, so they all nodded in agreement. "All right, Wayne," I said. "Now it's just you and Tim. If you think you can take him, go ahead. But if he kicks you'll leave him alone for good." A nasty grin flashed across Wayne's dull face. Clearly, he thought Tim would be easy to handle. "Sure, Sal, that works for me." Long story short, the fight ended in a draw. Parker was a head taller than Tim and at least 10 kilos, about 20 pounds, heavier, but he underestimated his opponent. Tim wasn't a great fighter, but there was one thing you could count on. You'd have to kill him to make him give up. Tim definitely took the worst of it, but he didn't back down and managed to land 2 or 3 solid punches in return. Eventually, Wayne realized it was a pointless fight and just turned around and walked off. Tim kept his money and no one ever tried to take it from him again. As we walked home together, our friendship only grew stronger. "Why'd you do that?" Tim asked. "You didn't have to step in for me." "I don't even know," I said. "I guess guys like Wayne just me off." "Well, thanks anyway." "Yeah, no problem, kid. I wasn't trying to fight them for you. I just wanted to make sure you had at least a fair shot. It would have really bothered me if you fought in my place. But thanks for evening the odds." From that day on, we became Sal and Kid. His parents liked me once they got to know me better, and Mike respected Kid after I told him about the fight with Wayne. At the time, Mike was finishing high school, and he decided that with a personality like Kid's, he absolutely needed to learn how to box. Mike trained him hard 3 nights a week until he was drenched in sweat, and Kid learned fast that by the time Mike left to join the Marine Corps, even I didn't enjoy stepping into the ring with my best friend anymore. We did all the typical teenage crap together: girls, beer, sports, and occasionally some cigarettes when we managed to get our hands on them. Kid was the book-smart nerd, and I had the smooth talk that helped us meet girls. Just to be clear, neither of us actually had sex before graduating high school, but it wasn't for lack of trying. Kid went to college and got a degree in business. I did 2 years of college and earned an associate's degree in something called interdisciplinary studies. I'm pretty sure that translates to knows a bit of everything, but isn't really good at anything. Kid met and fell in love with Lily in college. I stayed single, but was his best man at the wedding 2 years after graduation. He went to work at a local bank, and I started my own landscaping business. We were both doing fine, and 3 years later, I became the godfather to Tim Jr. 2 years after that, Lily gave birth to Mary, right around the time Kid started climbing the ladder, the world of finance. 3 years later, my small business was on the rise when one afternoon, Kid dropped by for a visit. We talked for a couple of hours, and the gist of the conversation was that Kid wanted to bring in a few investors. To help me expand, he explained everything very clearly. And less than a month later, I received a check for $200,000. That allowed me to immediately double my equipment and crews. I became a serious player in the landscaping industry across central Kentucky and eventually opened branches in Louisville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Nashville. I also began occasionally representing the company, which meant I was traveling more frequently. And now, here I am, standing in a hotel parking lot in Chicago at 2:30 in the morning, feeling like my world is falling apart. I loved Lily like a sister and never, not even for a second, imagined she was capable of cheating on Kid. They had been married for about 12 years, and everything seemed perfect between them. Of course, they argued from time to time like any married couple, but Kid was a model husband and father, and despite working long hours, he never missed an anniversary, a birthday, or a family holiday. He would regularly take Lily away for entire weekends to keep the romance alive and prevent their relationship from being dulled by routine. I had always believed she adored her husband, so there was never any reason to suspect that something might be wrong between them. Taking a few deep breaths, I tried to focus on what I had to do next. So far, Lily hadn't noticed me, but that could change at any second. I quickly pulled out my phone and snapped a few photos, then switched to video and recorded for a couple of minutes. I had more than enough evidence that these two were definitely more than just friends. The video clearly showed him pulling her in for a long kiss while his hand slid down and caressed her. I don't know how I managed to stop myself from smashing his face right there in the parking lot. Thankfully, just then the all-clear signal was given, and the hotel guests began heading back inside. I waited a bit and saw them enter the elevator along with about 6 other people. The elevator stopped at the 8th, 9th, and 14th floors. While that information wasn't enough to determine exactly which room they were in, I figured there was nothing more I could do at that point, so I went back to my room. I tossed and turned until 6 in the morning, then went out for a long run to burn off my anger and frustration. Later that same morning, I saw that Warren again. I still couldn't remember his name, but I knew it was only a matter of time. He was standing at the front desk when I quietly slipped into the line behind him, trying to catch what was being said. "Yes, Dr. Porter, how may I assist you? I have a few business meetings today, so I'll be out most of the day. But my wife is staying here. Could you give her a call in about an hour and let her know she's booked for a full day of spa treatments?" "Oh, certainly, sir." So, Mrs. Porter, room 1419, full spa package, courtesy of her loving husband. I couldn't see his face, but it was obvious from his tone that he was practically bursting with smugness. "Yes, that's right," he replied with a grin. "From her loving husband." I turned and walked away quickly before he could spot me. Most likely he wouldn't have recognized me anyway, unless he had a photographic memory. We'd been briefly introduced to this Dr. Porter at one of Kid's social events about 2 years ago. He was a surgeon at a local clinic and served on the community board along with Lily. The community board's mission was to provide scholarships for underprivileged children in our city. But apparently, those two had added something else to their list of responsibilities, like sleeping together behind my friend's back. The reason I had come to Chicago was for a landscape equipment expo, but now that didn't matter anymore. I was still confused and couldn't decide what I should do next. So I did what I always do when I'm completely lost. I called my older brother. After a 30-minute conversation, a clear plan of action began to take shape 2 hours later and $200 poorer. I slipped into Dr. and Mrs. Porter's hotel room, all thanks to the fact that one of the housekeeping staff had absolutely no reason to doubt that I was the guest staying in room 1419. Just a guy who had misplaced his key card due to simple absent-mindedness. After talking to Mike, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to fight this battle for Kid, but if I could pull off what Mike had suggested, then damn it, I'd at least make sure Kid had a fair shot, just like back when we were kids. 2 days later, I pulled into my garage and got to work organizing the information I had just gathered. That evening, Mike dropped by to have a beer and make sure I hadn't screwed things up by following his advice. He made a few adjustments, but overall, he gave my plan the green light. The next morning, I called Kid Sal Man. "How was Chicago?" "All good, Kid." "How's the family?" "Everyone's great. but the kids are asking when Uncle Sally's coming over. Lily just got back from New York. She went to visit her sister. How about coming by this Friday for some steaks, beer, and a night with the crew? You said Lily was in New York. Huh, how's Connie doing? Seems like everything's fine. Lily was a bit tired when she got home, said Connie wore her out, but she said she had a great time. Yeah, I bet you did, I thought to myself. Of course, kid. Friday's still on. Friday evening came, and I put on a performance worthy of an Oscar. Lily and I exchanged a polite cheek kiss when I arrived, and I genuinely enjoyed playing with my godson and Mary. Later, after the kids had gone to bed, the three of us sat out, the backyard patio drinking beer. So, Sal, how was the expo in Chicago? Kid asked. I glanced sideways at Lily and noticed her flinch ever so slightly. So wrapped up in her little affair, she had clearly forgotten where I was supposed to be last week. Overall, not bad, kid. Checked out some new equipment I'll probably be buying. Made a few solid connections. Had a good time, except for Tuesday night. Oh yeah? What happened? I watched Lily out of the corner of my eye as I started telling the story. The damn hotel fire alarm went off at 2:30 in the morning. My room was on the 12th floor, so I had to drag my Adia down 12 flights of stairs, then stand out in the parking lot for a full half hour, only to find out it was a false alarm. Lily looked a little pale and kept shifting nervously, staring at the ground, but Kid didn't seem to notice. Yeah, that sucks, man, but hey, that late-night workout probably did you some good. Kid grinned. No kidding. I'm just glad I wasn't staying in the penthouse on the 14th floor. I saved myself a couple of flights. So, how's Connie doing, Lily? I asked casually. Kid told me you had a great few days with her in New York. To her credit, for a cheating adulteress, she held herself together impressively and stayed completely composed. We had a lovely time together, just like always, Sal. Oh, and by the way, she asked if you've changed your mind about the whole bachelor lifestyle. Not a chance in hell, Lily, you know me. Marriage and fatherhood just aren't for me. I'm a committed bachelor and plan to stay that way. Marriage can hurt way too much. Just look at what happened to my mom. She married a guy who cheated on her repeatedly and then left her with me and Mike. I'm not about to set myself up for that kind of betrayal. Damn, Sal, Kid said. You're way too pessimistic. Who knows? Maybe there's a great woman out there who could give you an amazing marriage. Just look at us. My heart felt like it was about to shatter, but I kept my composure. Yeah, I said, looking at both of them. Maybe there is such a woman, but I'm just not ready to take that risk. I've got my best friend, and I get to play with his kids when I feel a fatherhood itch, and I don't have to risk a thing. Don't you agree with me, Lily? I looked her straight in the eyes. It seemed that, at that moment, she realized I knew about her double life. But that lying adulteress didn't even flinch. I believe marriage is a beautiful thing, she said. Even though it's difficult and has its ups and downs, a stable family gives children a chance to grow up in a safe and loving environment. Even when there's hurt or disagreement, two people who love each other stay together and push through the hardships. And that's what really matters. Lily had just made it painfully clear I should keep my mouth shut, for the sake of my friend and his children, despite her disgusting betrayal. But I didn't back down. No matter what, Lily. Yes, Sal, no matter what. With that, she stood up, yawned, and stretched. Well, I'm off to bed. Don't stay up too late, Tim. See you around, Sal. It's always a pleasure having you in our home. What? A damn hypocritical witch. It seemed like the only thing that upset her was getting caught. And from the look of it, she didn't care at all about the betrayal itself, or the utter disrespect she was showing her husband. A man who, without exaggeration, could be considered one of the best on the planet. I barely managed to keep my composure, long enough to finish another beer and head home. The whole drive back, I kept thinking about how Lily had reacted to my words. I wondered if I could really let her manipulate my loyalty to Kid and the kids and become a silent accomplice to this disgusting lie and betrayal. Should I really keep quiet about her affair just for the sake of their family stability, even knowing that this adulteress would keep sneaking around with Dr. I kept turning it over and over in my mind the entire way home. and by the time I turned into my driveway, I already knew the only right answer. Hell no. 2 days. Later, I took action. First thing Monday, I scheduled an appointment with that patient surgeon for 4 p.m. One of my crews was doing landscaping work at the medical clinic where he worked. And as it turned out, Porter actually owned the building. Since I hadn't personally handled contracts in quite a while, the risk of Porter recognizing who I was before we met was pretty low. I told his secretary that I had some addendums to previous contracts that Dr. Porter needed to sign in order for our partnership to continue. It'll take 10 minutes tops, I said. She promised to squeeze me into the schedule. Then I sent a message to the lying adulteress. Meet me at 10 a.m. at the coffee shop on East High Street. A minute later, she replied, Sorry, I've got a couple of meetings scheduled. I won't be able to make it. I smiled. All right, no problem. Then I'll just send Kit a few photos I took in the parking lot of that Chicago hotel last Tuesday at 2:30 a.m. In those photos, Dr. and Mrs. Porter look very cozy together. The reply came instantly. You're bluffing. Let's find out, you lying tramp. If you're not here by 10:01, I'll send him pictures and then I'll go to his damn office and show him the video of you and your doctor having sex with each other Wednesday night at the same hotel. I swear to God, I hope you don't show up, you cheating liar. I don't believe you. You've got nothing. A moment later, hey cheater, open the attachment. The damn clock's ticking. Don't be a minute late or I'll burn your world to the ground. I'll be there. But after this, you're out of our lives for good. You'll never see your godson or Mary again. I chose the coffee shop because it was far enough from Tim's office. My intention was to give that adulteress Lily a chance to confess on her own and show at least some sign of remorse, and I didn't want our conversation interrupted. I arrived about 20 minutes early, grabbed a cup of black coffee, and found a table in the back of the room. Lily walked in at 9:58, and I thought to myself, well, turns out even seasoned adulteresses can be trained. She walked straight to the table and sat down, glaring at me with eyes full of anger. I see you didn't even bother to get me a latte. Order something yourself if you're so thirsty, I replied. I assume Dr. Porter left you some cash on the nightstand after you serviced him. She looked so furious, I honestly thought she might lunge at me across the table. And to be honest, I wouldn't have minded slapping that smug face of hers. But instead, she stopped, and suddenly, her entire posture collapsed into defeat. I never meant to hurt him or harm our children, she said, without lifting her eyes. That's a strange way of showing care for your family, Lily. What the hell got into you? I don't even know myself. It started as innocent flirting after board meetings, and eventually one thing led to another. One evening, we ended up in his bed while his wife was out of town, and Tim had taken the kids to visit his parents. I was left on my own. It excited me. For one night, I got to let go of all the responsibilities of being a wife and a mother, and it felt thrilling. But I never expected it to go on this long. I can't seem to find a way to stop it. Well, Lily, I've got to be honest. You've shocked me. I never would have believed you'd lie to and cheat on my best friend. I would have bet the deed to my house that it could never happen. When I saw you two in the parking lot, I almost passed out. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but unfortunately, they weren't. Do you realize, I continued, that what you're doing could completely destroy one of the best people I've ever known? Please, Sal, don't do this. There has to be another way. I can't confess. It would break him. Can't we find some kind of compromise? I promise I'll end things with Porter immediately. Let the photos and video stay with you, as a guarantee that I'll do exactly what I've said. I won't make another mistake again. And if Tim never finds out, our family will stay intact and our kids will be okay. It's too late, Lily. What's done is done. You should have thought about the consequences of your double life back when you first decided to sleep with Porter out of boredom. What you do with Porter now is your problem. But I won't let my best friend be made a fool of or fed lies. And sure as hell won't stand by and watch you destroy his life just because you screwed up and don't want to take responsibility for it. But Lily clearly wasn't ready to give up so easily. she decided to go on the offensive. No, you won't do it, Sal. You won't put Tim in a position where he loses his wife, most of his money, his kids, and the life he knows and values. Don't corner me like this. You know there won't be a peaceful divorce. I'll squeeze everything I can out of him. And when he asks why I'm doing it, believe me, I'll make sure he knows you started all of this. So maybe you should listen to reason and stop acting impulsively. Help me get out of this mess so I can save my marriage and family without hurting anyone. Otherwise, it'll end very badly for him, and then he'll hate you. I just shook my head and smirked. You think this is funny, Sal? Understand this, I'll drag you down with me if you don't back off. I stopped smiling and gave Lily a stare so cold it made her go pale. Listen, Lily, bluffing only works if you've got a decent hand every now and then. You just showed your cards, and we both know you've got nothing. Are empty threats the best you can do, you stupid, brainless adulteress? And you know what, Lily? Part of me honestly hopes you do go through with your threats. I know Kid will be devastated by what you've done, and he'll be even more shattered if you actually try to bleed him dry in a divorce. But trust me, it won't. Break him completely. I know him. He'll find the strength to get through it, and I'll help him every step of the way. Yeah, it'll hurt like hell. But if he knows the truth is on his side, he'll never back down and he'll never stop fighting you. And mark my words, in the end, he'll win. His name carries weight around here. People respect him in this town because he's done everything he could for so many others, and they know that. And what do you have, Lily? A thirst for revenge and a hysterical chorus of divorced airheads cheering you on. Good luck trying to win people over when they see the photos and videos of you and your lover. And don't doubt for a second that I will send them to everyone who knows you, inside your social circle and far beyond it. Your parents and your entire family will see Dr. Porter having sex with you. They'll hear you moaning and whimpering. Think about how they'll feel when they hear you screaming, "Yes, take what belongs to my husband and make me yours." I think that'll be enough to show them what a lying adulteress you've become. At first, Lily pretended it didn't faze her at all, but it was clear she now realized she'd lost and decided to change tactics. She gave a weak attempt at a smile and whispered, "Isn't there anything I can do to change your mind, Sal? I mean, anything you want." I felt her foot start to rub against one of my legs under the table. Reaching down, I shoved it away forcefully. The last card in the adulteress's deck. Huh, Lily? You're willing to sleep with your husband's best friend if it means avoiding the consequences of your betrayal. But here's the thing. I wouldn't touch you if you were the last woman on earth. You have no idea how much I hate you. When you kissed me on the cheek Friday night when I arrived, I nearly threw up. That's how disgusting you are to me. Lily seemed momentarily speechless. She still looked at me defiantly, but she knew she had lost. "So what now, Saint Sal?" she hissed. "You're going to drive home now, call your husband, and ask him to come over while the kids are still at school. Then, you're going to tell him everything you've done, every detail. It's going to shock him, no doubt, but at least he'll have 3 or 4 hours to collect himself before the kids get back. That'll give him the chance to process what you say and respond properly. I won't interfere, but I damn well need to know that when he makes his decision, he's doing it based on the full, honest truth. From you. To be honest, I don't know what that decision will be, Lily. He's a better man than I am. Maybe he'll find a way to forgive you and keep the family together. Or maybe he'll throw you out of his life like you deserve. Or he might choose something in between. But whatever it is, it will be his choice. And I want it to be a fair one, unclouded by lies, deception or hate. As I stood to leave, I finished. You're going to do this, Lily. You're going to do exactly as I said, or I swear to God, he's going to hear everything from me tonight. And if you force me to step in, believe me, I will make it my life's mission to destroy you completely. Do you understand me, Lily?" And only now did tears appear in her eyes, though I was sure it was out of self-pity, not remorse for anyone else. "Yes, Sal, I understand," she said. Good, was all I could say to her as a farewell. I walked out of the cafe, drove about a mile down the road, pulled over to the curb and sat there for a long time, staring blankly ahead. There are no words to describe the pain I felt for my friend and what he was about to go through. But I found some comfort in knowing he wouldn't face it alone, and that it would be a fair fight. At exactly 4 p.m., I was led into Dr. Sakur Porter's private office. The arrogant Haptuar walked in with an expression that made it look like he was doing me the greatest favor in the world by giving me 10 minutes of his precious time. So, Mr. Benedetti, I was told you have some additional agreements we need to sign regarding the landscaping work your company is doing. Can we make this quick? I'm on a tight schedule. I didn't respond immediately. I glanced around the room, not the slightest bit concerned about his schedule. Tell me, Doc, this is a private office, right? I mean, in the interest of patient confidentiality, you don't record what happens in here, do you? That's correct, Mr. Benedetti. Otherwise, it would violate about 10 state and federal patient privacy laws. But what does that have to do with a landscaping contract? Good. I stood up, walked around his desk, and slapped him as hard as I could. He went sprawling to the floor and started groaning loudly, but within 2 seconds I had one hand around his throat and the other clamped over his mouth. It was clear that the doc and I had grown up on opposite sides of the tracks. I'd been in dozens of fights, won many, lost a few, but I knew how to take a punch. The same couldn't be said for Dr. Junihu, by the look of it, had just taken the first punch of his life. His height and fitness didn't intimidate me in the slightest. You listening, Doc? He nodded. Good. I'm going to ask you a few questions now, and if I feel like you're lying to me, I'll choke you until you pass out. Then we'll start over. Got it? Tears began streaming down his face as he nodded again. First, be a good little boy and tell your assistant we'll be in here for a while, and that we're not to be disturbed. But do it calmly. Don't give me a reason to hurt you again. He nodded once more. All right, I'm going to let you go now, and you're going to do exactly what I told you. I promise I won't lay another finger on you, we'll just have a little chat. But if you don't, you'll seriously regret not listening to me. Porter did exactly as he was told, speaking in a calm voice, and his assistant didn't suspect a thing. So, Doc, do you know Lily Wellston? His eyes widened in shock. Just say yes or no, that's enough. Yes. How do you know her? We serve on the community board together. I stood and leaned across the desk. That's the official story, but that's not the whole truth, is it, Doc? No, it's not. I sat back down. So, what else? We're lovers. How long has this been going on, Doc? 8 months. I take it Mrs. Porter doesn't know, right? No, she doesn't know anything. Well, that's about to change, but we'll come back to that later. Tell me something. Before our little meeting today, did you have any intention of ending your affair with that adulterous Lily? I don't think that kind of language is appropriate, Mr. Benedetti. I shot up from my chair, smack. Maybe I overdid it a little, because this time the doc looked like he was suddenly admiring the stars. Just answer my questions or I'll really start working you over. She's a lying, cheating adulteress and you're a sack of garbage. Now let's get back to my question. So, did you ever consider ending things with her? He slid a little, farther away from me. No, sex with her is the best I've ever had. Maybe eventually it would have run its course like all my past flings, but she's insanely good at it, and spending time with her is honestly a blast, no exaggeration. Well then, I believe you, Document Funny. I always thought a degenerate like you, who steals other men's wives, wouldn't be capable of telling the truth. But it looks like I was wrong. Now let me tell you what's going to happen next. First of all, before I leave this office, you're going to send her a message telling her that you're resigning from the community board immediately and that you will never see her again. From this moment on, there will be no more communication and no more sex between you. You'll tell her never to contact you and to stay away from you. It's over. Your little affair is finished, got it? Yes, I'll do it, and one more thing, just so there's no misunderstanding. If her husband divorces her and your wife divorces you, you're still not going near her. Not even within a mile. Understood? Yes. Good. Second, You're going to drive home to your wife and tell her everything about your betrayal and what you've done to your marriage. And don't worry, you're not the only one doing this today. Lily is telling her husband the same thing right now. Just to be clear, I have your wife's contact information, as well as photos and a video of you and Lily having sex in the hotel last week. Sometimes you can witness very interesting things in a hotel parking lot when the fire alarm goes off in the middle of the night. Anyway, if you don't fully confess, I'll send her all the evidence, which she can then use against you in court while she tears you apart in the divorce. And lastly, you will accept whatever decision your wife makes without question. If she forgives you and wants to stay married, I won't interfere. But if she files for divorce, you won't contest anything, and you'll give her whatever she wants. Understood? Yes, I understand. But once you leave, what's to stop me from ignoring everything you've said? Oh, that's a great question, document. Because if you don't follow through on my terms, well, let's just say accidents can happen. Maybe not tomorrow, and maybe not even next month. But one day when no one's around and you feel completely safe, anything could happen to you. No one's going to kill you. That would be too easy. But I bet there's a pretty good chance you'll lose the use of both your hands. And then tell me, how are you going to perform surgery? You do realize that would be the end of your career as a surgeon, not to mention the pain you'll live with for the rest of your miserable life. You and that adulterous Lily ruined the life of a damn good man, and I will never forgive you for that. So remember, I'll always be watching you, you piece of trash. Do you believe me, Doc? Yes, I'll say it again, I'll be watching you. And if you ever mess around with another man's wife again, someone a lot less friendly than me will pay you a visit one night. And after that, your hands will be the least of your problems. Do you understand that too? Yes. Perfect. Now sign the landscaping contract and send the message to Lily. Lily and Porter confessed everything to their spouses exactly as I instructed. Mrs. Porter immediately filed for divorce, and the doc didn't contest a thing. She walked away with 75% of their assets. By the way, I also raised his landscaping service rate by 50%. My poor dear friend kid was a mess for a while. The confession from the woman he had given his heart and soul to, who had so coldly betrayed him, nearly destroyed him. He left town for 2 weeks to clear his head and make sure he didn't do something he'd regret. I spent the second week with him, after he called and asked me to meet him and help him sort things out. As I expected, it hit him hard, but he didn't break. He divorced Lily, and while the kids live with him most of the time, they share joint custody. He's polite to his ex-wife in front of the children, knowing that one day they'll be old enough to draw their own conclusions. But that's still somewhere down the road. Lily lives in a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Lexington's west side. She works full-time as a secretary at a small insurance company. For the first time in her life, she's had to work to support herself. They say she doesn't go on dates, although plenty of guys, somehow having heard she's geezy, keep trying. I've also heard that for a while she hoped Dr. Porter would eventually call her, but for some reason, he never did. Kid still hasn't met a woman worthy enough to restore his faith in marriage and help him piece things back together, but maybe someday he will. Lately, he's been smiling more often. That's a good sign. As for me, I remain a bachelor playing the role of uncle to 2 amazing kids, and making sure that if anyone ever tries to mess with Kid again, I can personally guarantee the fight will be a fair one.